Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to the monthly meta. I'm really sorry it's almost 2 weeks late this month, but I had to have a look at the monthly meta anyway. So before we carry on, the two things we're going to look at today are what's legal and what's lethal. So we're going to have a look at what is allowed in the format, whether you are running a league or going to a tournament. I want you to know what is available to you, what resources you might want to be aware of. And the second thing is what's lethal. So we're going to look at a couple of tournament results and figure out what rosters and what teams are doing pretty well at the moment. Now, this is going to be the last monthly meta in this format. Tournaments are really about to brew up, so we're going to continue to look at some in detail, but we're going to focus more along the lines of which teams are performing well, because we should be getting like, a dozen or more tournaments a month. We can start putting those results together and looking at which teams are performing the best. So I am excited. The world is reopening. Play safe and play well. Let's have a look at what's legal. So not a lot has changed in the last month when it comes to competitive or organised Blood Bowl. So we're in format 2020 12A, and the reason it's 12A is because we are up to Spike 12. I was kind of hoping we'd have another Spike by now, but we might be getting there soon. I don't know. We've seen a star player that hasn't got rules anywhere. That normally indicates there's going to be a Spike landing soon. I hope. Anyway, in this format right now, if you wanted to go play Blood Bowl somewhere that you didn't know people. Now, if you're playing with friends, you can come up with whatever homebrew rules you love. If you want to add special teams and secret teams from Fumble, I highly recommend it. But if you're going to a tournament or just rocking up to start a new league with a bunch of people that are new or whatever, this is what's going on in Blood Bowl. So you need the rulebook, Blood Bowl 2020 rulebook. It's a beautiful piece of kit. Then there are a couple of spikes that are available to you. So Spike 11 is the necromantic one. You will need that if you want the 3 or 4 undead stars in it. We've got Wilhelm Chaney. We've got Skrull Halfite, who's in the book, actually. We've got Gretchen, who's in the book, actually. We've got Bryce the Slice Campbell, and we've got Frankenstein the Golem. So the Golem, Frankenstein, Bryce the Slice Campbell is a chainsaw player, and Wilhelm Chaney are all in Spike 11. Wilhelm Chaney is performing very well at the moment. He's a great star player, so if you're looking at running an undead team, picking up Spike 11 so you've got the rules for him, pretty useful. Now Spike 12 landed, which is the Nobility and Black Orc one. Didn't actually have really any more rules in there. There's some cool fun rules, and there's some great fluff. If you're interested in running a Black Orc team or a Nobility team, pick it up. It's a good read, and there are some fun rules in there, but you're not going to need them for competitive Blood Bowl. Then we've got the Teams of Legend PDF. Those are the teams that have yet been done by Games Workshop that existed in the before times, pre-snap, basically, Blood Bowl. Amazons, Chaos Dwarf, Norse, Tomb King, High Elf, and Vampires. If you've got any of those teams, or you're interested in basically kit bashing a team yourself or picking up a third-party team, Teams of Legend PDF, which is in the links below, or you can find it on the Games Workshop website, has got Blood Bowl 2020 rules for Blood Bowl 2000 teams, basically. Acorn, the Squirrel, is a little squirrel star player who came with the Tree Man kit. He's just awesome. They came up with star player rules for him and put it in White Dwarf for 5.8. You can still get hold of that digitally. I do recommend it. Acorn is a ton of fun. 80k. Frenzy Claws, but he's strength 1 and dies basically when you look at him. Cool one. I'm tempted to run a roster with him for Sandbot. Now, some tournaments won't allow Acorn because he's not in a book, which means that you have to go and buy a specific White Dwarf for one piece of rules. So do be aware if you're going to a tournament, have a look at the rule set for that, because you may find that your tiny squirrel secret weapon basically is a no-go. Then you've got the NAF tournament guidelines. So the NAF is like a players association for Blood Bowl. They agree kind of like a balanced rule set for Blood Bowl for competitive rule play. Been really useful for the past, 20 years. So they have also released their rules with 2 teams from the before times, Khorne and Slann. Now these are 2 teams that don't exist very much in the Blood Bowl canon as it was, but Khorne worshipping, okay, murderous rampage, an entire team basically of frenzy players, really good fun. And Slann is frogmen basically, space aliens who now play Blood Bowl. Frogmen, they've got pogo stick everywhere, so they're leaping around. It's really good. Slann are a great fun. In fact, both of these teams are really good fun. So again, download that. Most tournaments you go to will allow the NAF teams as well. Then we've got the Games Workshop May FAQ. We've done at least one video on this. There's a few changes. If you want to know the summary, check out last month's monthly meta. If you want to go deep on it, we've got a video dedicated to it. A few things have been clarified, and I guess the biggest casualty is Hail Mary. So that was it from a competitive kind of style. Now here's a list of amazing, but definitely not balanced, fun rules for Blood Bowl. First of all, you've got Death Zone. Death Zone is such a good book. If you play casually, if you've got a mad league, Death Zone is just full of individual rules you can chuck in there that are a ton of fun. So definitely recommend Death Zone. Not very balanced. Then you've got the special play cards and pitches with special rules as well. If you've got those and you agree with your opponent, chuck them on. They're good fun. Again, not very balanced. And White Dwarf 466, which is out later this month, has got rules for referees on pitches. Now, we've briefly had a look at it and we talked about it on the podcast last week. We don't know the full rules though. At the moment they are just moving around ball and chain style at the ball, and they basically can spot you fouling closer and you can punch them. I'm not sure when or why. No, wait, I'm not sure when. I know why. You can take out a referee, which could be really good fun. In fact, in my league, I would recommend offering an extra MVP for anybody who does take out the referee. So those are the optional but fun rules for Blood Bowl at the moment. So basically that is what's legal. Now we're going to bounce on to what's lethal. So what's lethal, we are going to have a look and see which teams have been performing the best, what rosters to watch out for, and if you're going to an event, what teams to consider. But first of all, the world is still starting to open, and COVID is pretty rife. In fact, just whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, please stay safe. The only casualties, the only injuries we want are going to be on the pitch. So if you're going to an event, please check the local rules. Make sure that you are adhering to it. Let's be sensible about this. But the fact is, we can now do tournaments. So we had a 20-man tournament. Everyone played by the rules. We had it all spaced out, and it was an awesome day while staying within the regulations. And as it stands, we could see all regulations drop soon. But when it does, just stay safe. So we're going to look at two events, one of which we looked at last month, and one of which I've snuck in because my prerogative. So the first one we're going to have a look at is the Sky Slammer Nuffle Scuffle 1, which took place last weekend, same as Bonehead Bowl actually, in Stockholm, Sweden. It's a one-day, 4-game tournament. 1.1 million and SPP buy, okay, with 24 SPP for the first tier, 36 for tier 2, and 72 for tier 3. So tier 3 teams should be able to get a chunk of skills in that kind of format. So we've got the results. Let's have a look and see who did well. Okay, we had Chaos Dwarf run by Pelavin coming in first place. Tomb Kings at the moment are on fire. Zelaya came second place in Tomb Kings. Halfling came won the Stunty Cup with Oz taking that. Halflings are actually pretty good in the SPP by format. If you think about it, 72 SPP, that's a double on a tree, that's a double on a tree, that's 24 of your 72. That gives you 48 SPP then to go and spend on skills. That is 4 doubles basically for your halflings, so you can pick up a cheeky block or wrestle or something like that, or you can just spam things like jump up, and it gives you a ton of flexibility. And because they're such low TV, even at 1100 you can get a really good star and maybe 2 really good stars in there. So that actually does make halflings pretty formidable in that format. Most touchdowns, Humans by Spoiled Squig. It's nice to see Humans being represented. They are a beast of a team in this edition. Now low TV, Humans will do well as well. What do we say, 24 SPP for tier 1 teams. It's only 4 normal skills, but the great thing about Humans, they don't really need a lot of skills. And most casualties, Tomb Kings, I think it was Zelaya, it may have been a different Tomb King team, but anyway, Tomb Kings causing most casualties is certainly not unheard of when you've got that much flexibility. Not only have they got those 4 Tomb Guardians, but they can actually drop a couple of Tomb Guardians and take Wilhelm Chaney instead. So if you want less bash but more dash, Tomb Kings actually have the flexibility there, and a really great way to sneak in an Edge 3+ player to your team, who has movement 8. And the second tournament we're going to look at was our tournament. So we ran this last weekend. We had 18, 19, 20 people there, so 18 competitors in the event. It was one day, 3 games. It's our first tournament of this year. It's our first tournament of this format, so we went quite low because we wanted people to just get used to the teams. We had a great variety of teams. If you want to know more, like a full breakdown of Bonehead Bowl, catch up with the last podcast where we have Sam and Milton join myself and Ben to talk through all the teams and the games and what went on. Really good fun. So good. So much good fun. Anyway, 3 games, 1100 TV here, so 1.1 million builds. And skills, we were limited to 4 normals for tier 1, 4 normals and a double for tier 2, and 4 normals and 2 doubles for tier 3. So we kept the skill packages really low because we wanted coaches to get an opportunity to take a team to the pitch and kind of get a feel for it at a point where you're kind of looking at game 3 to 8 of your league. The whole point was just to get to grips with actually how a team can play in this new format. And we saw some really cool builds and a really great variety of team. We even had 2 Khorne teams, 2 Khorne, 2 Tomb Kings. You know, we had a Chaos Dwarf team. It was a really good mix of teams. And the winners were... Underworld came first. That's Wayne. Wayne won our Beachhead Bowl last year, which was a 40-person tournament. And came in and 3-0'd, the only 3-0 on the day with Underworld. Yes, it had Hackflem, basically a Roger, 6 Snotlings, Hackflem. It was a powerhouse of a roster, but it was not a gimme, and this is what I'm really happy to see. You see Underworld at the moment doing really, really well, and kind of Hackflem is a bit of a no-brainer when it comes to a lot of teams, but Wayne's second round was real touch and go. All the games were quite close. Wayne is an excellent coach. I think he could have probably won with any roster. And I don't think we saw Hackflem's special power come up that often. It was just those Snotlings overperforming, and I am super happy about that. At second place, we had Lunch Money come and almost mop up. Basically, going into the third round, there was 4 players, all basically playing for the win. Lunch Money and Dave Lyons took a draw, which meant that Blood Tithe Ben got beat out by Wayne with his Underworld for the number 1, but Lunch Money did come in second and took most casualties as well with 16 over 3 games, using a very old undead team that clearly had some revenge on their minds. Stunty Cup got taken by Sam Frenzy Garner, who actually beat his brother by 1 point to take Stunty Cup. Lee ran Ogres and came in at 41 points, and Sam hit 42 and snuck in there with the Goblin team. Awesome Goblin team, had a great time with casualties. Most TDs was Phil Cash with Dark Elves. So those of you who are thinking that Dark Elves can't put a motor on and score a ton of TDs, you are quite wrong. They scored more TDs than the winning Underworld team. Yeah, it was a great event, and it was really cool to see those rosters. I think what we'll do is we'll have a quick look at Wayne's roster before we move on. So this was Wayne's team, Scars and Stripes. We had 1 Underworld Rat Ogre with Diving Tackle as the 1 double for the team. Now, I don't know if Diving Tackle came up that often, but that's actually a pretty decent combination with Prehensile Tail. I think the idea was to tag people in place, use the opportunity to cause a turnover and just maximize on it. From talking through his opponents, I don't know if it came up all that often, but it's a really interesting and unusual double to have. Normally you'd think Roger, chuck a double on it, yeah, let's go for block. Actually, DT made it play more as a defensive tackling piece, which is quite interesting. Underworld Gutter Runner with block, that's a movement 9 edge 2 plus blodger. All about that. Thrower took Leader to give the second reroll for the team. Blitzer took Horns. You can't be a horny Skaven Blitzer. One of the Clan Rats took Block to give you a kind of second-rate Blitzer as well. And that was it for skills, backed up with 3 Underworld Goblin Linemen and 2 linemen and 6 Snotlings with, obviously, Hackflem himself, rounding out with a bribe and 2 rerolls there. So he didn't quite have enough cash. That came in bang on 1100. It was a really cool roster. It actually did a ton of stuff and was able to keep in there. There were some games where Wayne took a ton of casualties, but winning's winning. Something family. So good job to Wayne. Great roster. I'm happy to see Underworld performing well this edition. It is cool. They were kind of unloved in the last edition. Now they're kind of sneaking into tier 1. So the top legend team of the month has got to go to Tomb Kings. So we saw Tomb Kings take, second place in casualties at one of the events here. But they performed remarkably well in Bonehead Bowl. So going into the first round, Joe Solo, who normally takes a really ridiculously built stunty team, thought, actually, this time I'll just paint up a Punga team really lovely. It was a lovely Punga team. But took a really different build, and I was really impressed with it. First round was dominating, okay? He went with 2 Tomb Guardians and Wilhelm Chaney. Now, had like 12-13 players, so plenty of bench, plenty of rerolls, and tier 2, plenty of skills. So he took that build and dropped some of the strength you think is kind of automatic in a Tomb King's build and replaced it with Wilhelm Chaney. Now, Wilhelm, having Edge 3 plus Strength 4, Frenzy, and Movement 8, means that he is an absolute monster. He's got Wrestle, so he can perform brilliantly as a safety. Okay, Strength 4 Wrestle Frenzy is superb if you need to protect your backfield. But having that catch, Edge 3 plus, Movement 8 angle as well, means that with a cage team like Tomb Kings, alright, you've lost 2 Tomb Guardians, but you may only need 2 Tomb Guardians. 5 squares into the pitch, you're good to go with Wilhelm Chaney just having a Strength 4 Frenzy breakout, okay? It's going to be risky, but it gives you Edge 3 plus with catch for an integral reroll and Movement 8 as well. And you do lose, obviously, 2 Strength 5 pieces, but you gain a Strength 4 Frenzy Claws piece as well, so it might actually help with removal. I was really impressed to see a very different build, and this is kind of what I'm excited to start seeing more of now. We also had a vanilla Tomb King roster as well, run by Saxby. He went and got 3 draws, had a ton of bad luck, and a ton of tough games. But Tomb Kings basically just doing really well across the board. It's awesome to see. So we've got Underworld, who are overperforming compared to the old edition. There are Tomb Kings who did brilliantly last month and continue to do so now. So I would love to see G-Dub land a Tomb King replacement team. If not, Punga Miniatures have actually released theirs now. And if you want something slightly more cartoony, Vortice. I love them. If you're interested in Tomb Kings, download the PDF, have a look at the team. It's really good fun. Alright, we're going to have a look at 2 tournaments coming up in the next month. The first one is Sand Bowl 3. This is taking place in 2 weeks' time on the Isle of Wight, 24th of July. I know the Isle of Wight is slightly difficult to get to if you're in the UK. I know the ticket's going to be like £50 or something, but if you're going with 2 or 3 of you in the car, it's great, and it's a cool trip. So myself and Bloodtithe Ben are going to this event, and Milton, who lives on the Isle of Wight now, is going to be there as well, which is pretty cool. 1 day, 4 games. It's incremental skills. I am very excited to see how this one plays out, because you guys, if you've seen 7 Super Series, know that we used incremental skills in 7 Super Series. I think this could be really good. Now, the TO in me is like, well, how are you going to manage it? I'm sure it's going to be fine, but the tournament here, 1200, but must include a star player. That star player can be in your starting 11, but you have to have at least 1 star. So this really forces a bunch of creative options. We've done so much Theory Hammer. Again, we talked about this on the podcast last week, and we all kind of talked about what rosters might be good. I am tempted to take Acorn because I think it was Adam and Gary kind of challenged me at Bonehead Bowl and was like, maybe you should take Acorn, Ben. Take Acorn because you're allowed him. 1 per round skill, basically. You start the first game with 1 skill, second game with 2 skills, and then you basically add a skill each round, up to 4 skills. Not very many skills at all. So you're leaning heavily on, I think, teams that start with a lot of skills and some really good star players. I am expecting to see plenty of hack phlegm on the Isle of Wight. And the other tournament we're going to look at today is Titan Bowl 2. Now, this may or may not be happening. It's on the NAF site, but I couldn't find a proper page for it. Looks like Titan Bowl was due to happen in March and has been delayed. So I believe Titan Bowl 2 is going to be using the March rules. But even if it doesn't exist, I wanted to talk about it because it's something that we have actually spoken about before. Now, it's something we've definitely spoken about before, but also, if you get Death Zone, we talked about it in the fun optional rules part of this video, there is so many things. All you need to do is take 1 or 2 elements of that and you've got a tournament. You've got a unique tournament. You've got a really cool tournament. Titan Bowl has Titans. It has Giants. Everybody gets a Giant. So it's in Rotherham, UK on the 1st of August, potentially. 3 games, TV 1100 with skills being TV by... and then everybody gets a Giant. So not quite sure on the full format of it, but the whole point here is there is going to be a tournament in the new rules with the Giant rules from the Spike. Not the Spike. It was in the Spike. Now it's in the Death Zone. And this is a really cool idea for an event. I would love to attend this kind of thing. I'm not going to be able to. That's a week in. Is it the week in? Thread Bowlers and a wedding. This is my... I don't know. I can't make it anyway, even if it does exist. But it's a really cool idea of a tournament. Okay, everybody gets a Giant. So 1, you got to build a Giant. That's pretty good fun. But secondly, you are playing a game of Blood Bowl around basically 2 big players on either team. I love it. I think it's really cool. The only thing I could think would be cooler would be having 2 Giants apiece, but now I'm being utterly ridiculous. Anyway, Titan Bowl 2 coming up 1st of August. Definitely one to have a look at. I'll be keeping my eye on it to see if it goes ahead, if it's going ahead, and basically just how it plays out, because this looks like carnage and I am in love with this idea. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap up the video now. Like I said, as we move on, we are going to look at tournaments. So if you've got something coming up in the next couple of months you want us to look at, let me know in the comments below. If and otherwise, I'm going to start looking more at the data, which is going to be hopefully more fun than it sounds, because I want to see, as we are compiling like 20 tournaments a month, and as it starts going on, which teams are doing well, what cool rosters worked out well, and just looking at some of the more interesting formats as well as the standard ones. So like I said, if you've got something coming up, if you want us to brew a roster, if you want us to do a profile on something, drop it in the comments below, because this is all about showing off what incredible fun there is in competitive Blood Bowl. Anyway, I am going to disappear. Thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the show even further, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Or come and join us in our Patreon, link below, where you get early access to our content and monthly competitions. See you later.